Entry 9, Home Upgrade. Hey, it's me again. Yuji. You should already know my name if you've been reading these in order. But if you're one of those people who picks a random manga volume and starts reading it without any context, your energy scares me. I kind of went way too overboard with this whole tank business. I also no longer have a usable closet, but I didn't own enough clothes or things in general to make use of it. The consequences of pretending to be dead. Seriously, Kugisaki will not return some of my things, even after she pulled the exact same stunt. Okay, maybe it's not exactly the same, but I would love to have my Switch games back without having to beat her in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And as far as the rest of my things, most of my old childhood stuff was put in storage thanks to my sensei. He gave me the key to it, but I haven't had the time to go back. Or the mental energy. It's one of those. Anyway, I made a promise for this entry not to get all emotional. Back into the closet we go. A lot of it is stickers and static clings. The background, the foreground, and under the glass have them to mimic a larger environment, which is why I think Suku is so disappointed. In the meantime, I found some fuzzy fabric to use as a grassy burrow? I don't know if the blobs want or need a designated dark space, but now there is one. And a tube that goes nowhere. Not nowhere. It goes back into the jar until I figure out what to do with it. I put too many little figurines inside for there to be any space for it. A few are from the pet store. Some are, once again, from the craft store. I added that mouth there out of play to the shrine. It's way funnier if you have the context for it. But know that the tank is Skuna's domain, so obviously the malevolent shrine has to be in it. Inumaki would have laughed at that one. I don't really want it to be a pet tank, more like a room within a room. They have more space to stretch their muscles? Do the blobs have those? Or bones? I did not see anything when the accident happened, but I also know from touching them that there is some good density there. Point is, no more jar time unless they want it, which I doubt. I'm sure I can find some more furniture or make something for them to swap stuff around. There are these cool rope hammocks for lizards and tiny beds for hamsters. Or I could use doll accessories so they can have tiny versions of what I have. Hold on, I gotta write all this down. I just don't like dead air. Makes me awkward, even though I'm voice recording this to technically no one at the moment. How am I hiding all this, you may ask? I don't know. Good timing and living with someone who respects boundaries and doesn't poke around my room? The blobs are quieter when I'm not around, which helps. They know they were smuggled in without anyone's approval. Getting caught does no one any favors. Bringing the tank home was the trickiest part. I had to make sure Fushiguro wasn't around, though that doesn't mean that Kugisaki didn't break in either. Today wasn't one of those days, but I still jumped up onto the balcony and went through those doors to be extra cautious. I'm glad that I'm strong, because carrying that big ol' rectangle of glass would have been impossible otherwise. A funny thing happened after I lifted the tank, just before leaving the pet store. The old lady who owned the store asked me if I could move a few others for her. I didn't mind at all, so I ended up getting home later than I expected. She then tried to pawn off a couple of dwarf hamsters on me for my tank as a gift. I told her I already had two at home, but appreciated the offer. She asked for pictures and their names, so I grabbed my phone without thinking to show her the pictures of the twin blobs eating food, and she said there wasn't anything there. I guess the blobs aren't visible to non-sorcerers after all. And I was stuck thinking of an excuse and apologizing to her about not having anything as a consequence. I know it was my fault for not thinking through every step of that conversation, but I wasn't able to show off how cute Kuna was. As you can see from the photo, Kuna is very photogenic. The moment the camera comes out, he's looking my way. So freaking cute. If you're a sorcerer, that is. If not, just imagine a cute one-eyed blob without any visible murderous intent way too close to my camera. Side note, I need to make these two clothes soon. I have this silly idea that lets me reuse the same pattern twice, so I hope this project will go a bit quicker than I initially thought. I'll update the log again once I'm done. Entry 10. One outing couldn't hurt. I have many thoughts, and I'm struggling to organize them all. Typical Tuesday, am I right? January is almost over. It's supposed to be a new year and all, but I don't think it really feels like that, despite all the celebrations going on telling me otherwise. A lot has changed with the reconstruction and the reorganization of Jujutsu Tech. I won't even get into the politics. I'm steering clear of all that, considering who and what I am in relation to it all. Kusakabe-sensei said it would be best, and Fushiguro agreed, hence why we got a place to ourselves off of school grounds. It's been nice. But with everything so out of whack, this month really feels like a trial run for the next year, rather than it actually being 2019. It gives a lot of separation from all the heavy stuff in between. February will be my January, at least in my head. That won't change the fact that my birthday will be coming up in about 2 months. I didn't even think I would live to see my 16th birthday, yet here I am. Let's hope I didn't just jinx that. Speaking of birthdays, I've officially missed both Fushiguro's and Kugisaki's birthdays this last year. I was playing dead for one, and Fushiguro wasn't exactly around for the other. So maybe instead of celebrating my birthday in March, I convinced them to celebrate the two we missed as a group instead. Food for thought. I kind of wanted to ramble this idea down before I forgot it. These entries have spiraled a bit from what I intended, but I don't mind. They're more useful this way. Now then, back to the blobs. That is why you're reading these, eh? Unless you've become invested in little old me as well. Now I'm starting to sound like him again. I got clothes made for Suku and Kuna. While I managed to repair the mini kimono I had initially made for the original blob, I couldn't decide who to give it to, so I tucked it away for later. I know, I could have easily made another, but then I wouldn't have been able to tell them apart. And if I just made another of a different color, well, I might as well do something else a bit more fun. Something, say, I don't know, a tiny blob version of my school uniform, complete with a hoodie that would have been more functional if either Suku or Kuna had defined heads to work with. As it stands right now, the interior of the hood just pokes the top of their eyes if they try to use it. There are two versions. One is directly based on the red and black one I wear when out in missions, and then a white and blue one for contrast. I forgot to take a picture of the two together after first dressing them up, since Suku refused to sit still to remain in the frame long enough for me to nab him. This is actually the only usable photo of the two at the moment, and as you can see, the three of us were outside, in the park, technically in public. Listen, if most people can't see them, then what's the harm? I was very careful and chose a very secluded area of my local park to hang out in. And speaking of who can and cannot perceive them, I have several more questions that I can't ask anyone without risk of getting in trouble. Look at the photo and tell me, aside from the obvious feral behavior we expect from Suku display, how do the birds know that they are being chased? Can they sense curses or cursed energy? The bare minimum required for someone to be considered a sorcerer, aside from a few special cases like Maki-senpai, is that they can see curses. Does that make the birds sorcerers? Are all pigeons like this? Are all animals like this? I need to know. I have to know. Maybe Fushiguro would know with his animal Shikigami, or I could ask Mei, since she channels crows with her technique, but asking her would be expensive, and I already wasted all my money on pet supplies, art supplies, and an extra order of taiyaki, since the little blob bastard ate mine. Kuna's adorable demeanor was a deception, a cruel joke to get close and steal my delicious treat right from underneath me. That photo was taken just moments before disaster. I'm keeping my guard up on both of them now, sleeping with one eye open on all that. For some reason, I think the clothes had gained the same property as the blobs, because Kuna was poking out of my hoodie when I had already hissed at him not to, when I ordered my taiyaki, and no one questioned it. No one looked at me in shock or confusion regarding the floating piece of doll-sized clothing. Not only am I confused about how animals work, but I'm once again questioning the logistics of our clothes. I'm still mourning the loss of two of my hoodies that could have been spared if someone had just written a guidebook on all this nonsense. Skuna, why did you have to destroy everything I showed any preference toward? Yeah, I'm looking at you two over there. Don't wiggle away from me. Answer the question. Oh shit, my